So let's say you're looking back at this little magic ball and you're screaming now at you, a 21-year-old.
Yeah.
What advice would you give yourself as a 21-year-old? And to any 21-year-old who's currently watching this, who's maybe working in Marks and Spencer's or working in a cashier, maybe on an average salary, what advice would you give to a 21-year-old right now and to you at 21?
At 21, me at 21, and not to sound mad, but don't get married at 26.
Okay.
You can't promote that.
100%.
When you said you got married earlier or later?
I should have got married later.
Okay, interesting.
I should have got married later.
Explain.
If I really deep it, I should have got married later. Because so for example, like one of the reasons we got married is that my wife had immigration issues.
Okay, cool.
And so one of the reasons that she couldn't work, and so forth. So we got at that time to make things make sense, we had to get married and just make things. But the reality is that at that time, that money I spent on a wedding, I should have bought a house.
Okay, so you would say house before marriage?
100%.
Would you say that to men and women?
Both.
Is that you both own yours individually or you own it together?
Both own yours individually.
Okay.
If you can buy a yard before you get married, it makes life so much different. Because now you move into one, you rent at the other, you've got an additional income. So because what happened after I got married, within a year, my first son was born.
Okay.
So now we've got the son. Now she's out of work. The income in the house has gone down, but the expenses is going up. Then we had our second child. 18 months later, second child come in.
So you're how old now with 2 kids?
I'm 28, 28, 29, with 2 kids.
Yeah.
2 kids. So then by the time I'm 30, 31, I got the third one.
Okay.
So yeah, because we had my oldest was 5 and we had 3 under 5.
Oh wow.
3 under 5 is mental.
It's mental, bro. It's actually mental.
That's a lot, bro. That's a lot.
It's mad. But the point is that, and again, the point is that if I would have prepared myself, if we would have both had properties, then again, we're renting them out. Even if we got to the point where we said, okay, we need a bigger house, go and rent. We can go and rent, and then we've got 2 houses that we own that we're renting out. That's providing income. So even if you have to move to, because the reason we're in Bromley now is because of schools. Yeah. But you had to rent and then buy. Do you know how hard it is to save rent and then buy?
Yeah.
But when I was single, and I'm at my parents' house, and again, my parents are giving me the benefit of lower outgoings. That was the time to really jump on it. Remember, I'm old, bro. When I could have jumped on the property, it was self-assessment, self-declare. You could self-declare, as in you could say I can afford to buy, and they'll just give you the mortgage because they just felt property prices just go up. Yeah, it's not available now. Do you know how? Now look what they're doing to Right to Buy.
Yeah, I think they scrapped it. They made it so little.
It's like 25 grand, 30 grand. Compared to 130,000. Yeah. So again, and remember, the people that are doing it are the same people that use Right to Buy to get their first property.
Of course, yeah.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And this is why sometimes when you talk about conservative Labour, bro, they're all the same. Yeah. Politicians, they're all the same. They're for their own benefit. Yeah. And so it's one of those things for me. Was like, if I was a young person now, I'll be focusing on ownership and assets over marriage. Because it's that financial commitment where you're saying...
over marriage or over family? Because technically we could argue, okay, most women are not going to want to just go registry. They're going to want the whole big shebang. Okay, so yeah. But are you saying sort out investments and assets before having a family?
Also, let's do this way. When you're a first time buyer, you got a first time buyer discount, right? If you're married, they will say that you don't have that individually. Because they'll say if you're married, you're going to live with your partner. Okay. So that means that your partner has to use their first time on the same property.
Okay, so both of you lose it technically on the first property.
On the first property you go. Okay. Whereas if you bought individually, you'd have that.
You get one and she gets
one, and at the tax benefit. So now in your family, and this is why you say it's us, not I. Because now in your family there's 2 properties owned individually. Now when you marry, then you can build to go and get your next one. Yeah. And the reason I say property to begin with is because it's the time horizon. We've seen that property, every 10, 15 years is doubling in price. And so for us, the earlier you can do that, the younger you can do it, get those 1 or 2. I'm not saying you have to be own bare properties, but
just have something.
Just have 1 or 2 free that you can say, I'm drawing income from. Then now when you do your ISAs, your pensions, you have a side hustle business. All of a sudden, life is so much easier. But trying to do that whilst paying nursery fees, whilst
Yeah.
it's a massive and paying rent, and then you want to buy rent in an area where it's good for your kids. We moved.
It won't work, yeah.
It won't work. We had to move to an area for the schools.
Yeah.
Because the area we were in, I was in Honor Oak before.
Okay.
Honor Oak was lovely. One train to London Bridge.
Yeah.
So I can work late in the office and come back and it's still okay. When you're living in Bromley, it's
It's a trek.
it's a trek. You got to drive to a station. So even after you've got the train, you still got to drive home.
Yeah.
But you've done that for the kids. You understand? Once you add kids to it, now you got to do stuff for them. So if you can do stuff for you first, I think it's vital. Get the property. Get a value. I always tell people, what's the value that you're adding? What can you do to add value to people? And if you don't have that, when you're young, when you're 21, 22, 23, focus on adding value to yourself. Work that out then. Because we are out here making I just did a kids book, and it teaches kids about finance and money.
What's it called?
It's called The Ultimate Guide to Money. And basically the kid gets £1 at the beginning of the book, and then we teach them lessons, and at every end of the chapter they have a decision to make with that money. If they make the right decisions, by the end of the book it will turn into £1 million. And it's to get them to use their imagination to say, right, actually money is a tool to make money. And if I can help or add value to people, it can change. It means that my life can be different. And so it's so important that actually when you're young, you're learning that. Because imagine if I did that if you do your first business at 12, 13, 14, by the time you're 25, wouldn't you have learned how many lessons along the way? Do you understand? We are starting businesses with wife, kids, all on our back. Can't afford to lose.
It's a lot.
But we all know in business, the first 3 or 4 businesses you do, you're likely to lose. Because in more cases. And also banks are less likely to finance you when you're brand new, when you have no track record of anything in the past. So if you can start to do these things earlier, it's better. I'm not saying everyone has to be an entrepreneur, but if you have an additional income stream, the goal is not to work forever. And for a lot of us, our lifestyle is based on work. And that's what the system wants. They want you to continue to work until you drop and die. And so it's about getting that money from work and putting it into something that doesn't require you to be doing it every single day, so that you can go back to your work and say, actually, I might go part-time. I might go 4 days a week because I want to use another day for my business, or I want to use a day to rest, or actually I want to do something else that I enjoy. I've got clients now that were lawyers that quit lawyers to go and work in charity, and I'm like, you've lost all that money, but they didn't get the fulfillment. Because sometimes you have a skill that makes you money, but you don't actually enjoy what you're doing. That's when you're young to learn those lessons. What do I actually enjoy doing? What are the things because life is about balance, but it's also, you want to enjoy it.
Would you say you have balance? At this present moment in time in your life, would you say you have balance?
I have much more balance than I used to. I didn't have balance.
If you also put it on a seesaw, would you say it's flat? Would you say business goes above? Obviously, family is the most important. But would you say when it comes to your time and your brain space, would you say that business is here and I would say family is here? Would you say family is here and business is here?
Yeah, it goes up and down. So I'd say this past year, I'd say family more than business.
Are you at peace?
I'm at peace. But I think this going into 2025, bro, I've gone the other way now. Because there's a point where you make a certain level of money and you realise it's still not enough.
When is it enough?
In this UK, it's not enough, bro.